direction. I'm sure financially that works well. I had a lot of emails as well saying, like, why don't they just put it on the WWE Network? Listen, I've got to be honest with you. If they do that as a business move, it'll be the worst move they ever make. It'll be a huge mistake to put Raw and SmackDown on the network because, trust me, they need that TV revenue stream. If they don't get their stuff out on TV, they're never going to get casual viewers. They're never going to get anybody new. And they could almost take themselves out of the game by doing that, in my opinion. You know, for me, Matt, I think they have to have the TV. I mean, I know people go, well, the way forward will be streaming anyway. At this point, I'm not saying that won't be the case in the future, but right now, I still think TV is important. I still think the revenue that they can gain, the casual fan they can still pick up, the potential is still there. But there's no way, and I don't care how cheap it is, because it is dead cheap anyway, they've got enough on there. You're not going to get people going, yeah, well, now I'm going to subscribe to the network and spend the 3 hours on that instead. They're not going to do it, in my opinion. Matt, where do you stand with that? With, you know, the whole putting it on the network stuff business.
You know, maybe that, like you said, might happen in the future, but yeah, I think we're a long ways from that. I think, you know, TV, like you said, is the way that they should keep it for now. It is making them their money. You know, it is keeping their investors happy, and I think, you know, if it was Vince's still his sole project, you know, he could be willing to gamble these kind of things with his own money, but it's not even that anymore, is it? He's got a lot of other people to answer to these days, and he can't risk anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, obviously, in the future. But yeah, that's been pretty. I'm sure there'll be lots of news going on around that during the year as well. So it'll be interesting to get everybody's thoughts on that. Okay, well let's break into some questions then, shall we, Matt? Let's get started on that and see you know, what people have been saying and all the rest of it. So first up, we've got questions. Get to mailbox here, and don't forget, folks, if you want to email the show, it's wrestleline@gmail.com. So that's wrestleline@gmail.com. First question here then from Tom Richardson, who says, is Brock Lesnar really in negotiations with the UFC? I think WWE will be stupid to let him go. Your thoughts? Thank you, Tom, for your question. Matt, obviously we've heard lots of speculation. We spoke about this last time on the podcast. You know, he turns up with a T-shirt, takes a photo with Dana White, doesn't turn up on Raw. People are, you know, oh, he didn't turn up, and Roman cuts in, you know, what people are considering an amazing promo. And then, of course, this Saturday, what happens? Brock shows up to do 35 seconds worth of a match with Kane, and that sort of puts that unrest down, doesn't it? I mean, over within the space of, what, not even a week, not even 7 days, they kind of destroyed that one. So there you go, Matt. Where do you stand with what's going on at the moment, and how do you think WWE are handling this situation? And is this as much of a shoot as what people are led to believe?
You know, it's hard to gauge this one. I mean, maybe there was some altercations or things that did not pan out, and maybe they did rewrite a little bit of that Raw. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change the grand scheme of things or the ultimate plan. Whether Brock turns up to a Raw is here or there. You know, he shows up rare enough as he is anyway. It's not going to make too much of a difference. The only thing they was able to get out of that was a decent Roman Reigns promo. Which is, you know, it's few and far between, but you know, I like that one. At least he put some effort into it, and he got that right, at least. But yeah, I think with Brock, you know, he's just always going to be the same, isn't it? It's not going to really make too much difference to him what WWE thinks. It's not going to make too much difference what the UFC thinks. He's always going to have a place to go, and we know that he's meeting up with Dana White. It would be silly to think that he isn't talking some business along the lines. You know, it's what they got on them. They both love to make money, so there's the opportunity for that. They're going to talk about it. Yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, that's, you know, definitely speculation is there. Of course, lots of rumours that, Brock only done, you know, 35 seconds worth because he wants to stay fresh for a UFC bout. And I'm not too sure I believe that, because he's still going to have to go through a WrestleMania match. So I'm not sure I quite believe all that. But it was a weird thing. I found it interesting that if WWE, you know, obviously did change tack on Raw, but at the same time, why do that and then have him straight on a house show?
if they really wanted to get some heat on Brock, I'd have had him no show all the way through for a while. Every time he's supposed to be there, just literally no show. Not even Heyman coming out. And make it look like, for once, like something reality based is actually happening here. Milk it for as much as you can. That way Roman gets, becomes a little bit more popular in all this. But of course they've kind of sort of shot themselves in the leg now with that. And we're expecting Brock not maybe tonight, but possibly next week is the next date he's got. So if he's there, then back to normal, I guess, mate. Back to where we were all heading. Be interesting. I know people think, that's done Roman the world of good. He's going to be over now, and everyone's going to hate Brock. I'm not so sure of that myself. I just don't think that will be the case. Again, speaking of that house show, which was in Chicago, by the way, they literally, Roman Reigns, John Cena had a bout, and let's just say the fans pretty much had a good old whale of a time through that one. There was loads of chants going on. CM Punk, of course, flared up as well, being in Chicago, so that went down well. Tremendous, really, there. Matt, just lastly, on Tom's question as well, part of obviously you saying about the negotiations. I mean, does WWE literally, do they play this, Matt, as close to themselves, to their own chest as anything, or would they announce if there's, because the thing I'm thinking is last year when they did finally get Brock to sign, they announced it on ESPN. There was this whole commotion all week. And then by the end of that, Brock was back as a babyface again. So I guess they've got to be careful. If they do sign Brock, maybe do it discreetly so that nobody knows, if that makes any sense. And then people will only assume Brock's going after. But, I'm pretty certain we know the result we're getting at WrestleMania. But, or do you have Brock sign and then there's more people thinking, hey, hang on, Brock might be winning the match against Roman? I mean, how do you play it, Matt? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my take on that would be that if Brock was to sign, I would announce that he has signed a new contract because, it's fair enough people thinking that Roman's walking in there and just taking that title and just walking straight out with it. And it makes that even more clear if we think that Brock isn't signing the contract. It leaves you with the only clear option, isn't it? Yeah. You have to take the title off of him. At least if you know that he is going to stick around for a few more matches, at least you think that he might hold on to that and there might be a possibility of a new challenger coming up. But that slim possibility that is, it's better to walk into WrestleMania thinking there's actually a chance Brock can win. Yeah.
The only cool thing would be, and they won't do this, by the way, so don't worry, but would be he signs the contract, nobody knows. They have him going in as if he is going, but he still manages to win, or there's a no contest, keeps the title, but we never see Brock for the next 8 months. But secretly knowing WWE did sign him, so they make a new champion in the meantime, and then Brock comes back with his title at some point down the line after signing, a deal that maybe gets him back after a UFC bout. That would be the only way that would work out pretty cool. And also get another match out of them as well further down the line. It doesn't have to be at WrestleMania, but you would definitely get a third match there. So that's another move. Now, they're probably not going to ever do that because it's the WWE. But a little bit of fantasy booking on my part there. Let's go to another question then. This one's sort of thrown at us a different angle here. It's not really current, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's from Joel from Austin, Texas. Thank you for ringing. Joel says, Matt Hardy does a really good job of staying in character. Who from the past would you say was equally as good as that, of staying in character to the point that everybody truly believed it? So obviously the days of gimmicks, Matt, and stuff like that actually being the gimmick, literally on and off. I mean, first of all, what I will say is wrestlers back in, say, the 70s, 60s and 50s they were wrestlers. I mean, there was no, I'm just a wrestler on Monday business. It was a wrestler through and through. Obviously, then we got to these gimmick type things, and I think that's what you're talking about here, Joel. So obviously, you look at the early WWF stuff. For me, Matt, I mean, it's a difficult one because there've been some good, wrestlers that have kept in character. But my most favourite one, I've got to say, and the more I always research it, the more I enjoy it from listening people talk about it, is always the $1 million man gimmick, Matt. Just the fact that they literally had him flying around in, you know, private jets and helicopters, and, you know, Vince McMahon saying to him, always make sure you've got enough money on your card, because we don't want you to get shown up. If you're in a restaurant and you can't fork the bill, you're going to damage us. You're going to damage your character. So apparently, by all accounts, if he ever got in that sort of trouble, he would literally pay it outright. Or if he went to a restaurant and say it was like fully booked, he'd like pay on top to get a seat, to be seen that he could do that and pull that kind of stroke. And then he was able to get that money back by bringing a receipt into Vince McMahon. But I mean, that is true commitment right there, Matt. I mean, talk about get behind something and run with it properly. The $1 million man, for a long time, he had some heat. I mean, when he used to get fans up to, like, he used to get the kids up to, like, I don't know, bounce a ball. I don't know if you remember that one where that kid got up and then he didn't give it. I mean, that was like some crazy harsh stuff. And I mean, I know, I've heard the stories about that, and that, you know, they would see the kid was okay after, like they'd give him a load of free merch. But on TV, they kept that absolutely legit. That kid was real emotion, is what he had there. They never told him he was beforehand. It wasn't an act. They wanted to get the real reaction. And then a couple of the guys, the staff, once the cameras were off, gave this kid a load of merch, so he was happy. But for the cameras, I mean, it was spectacular. But for me, man, that's one of my most favourite, I think, of people staying in the gimmick. I think that is that's when WWE can be really good. I kind of miss that. I kind of wish WWE would kind of do something like that today, to that point. But for you, Matt, is there any that stand out that's as much commitment as Broken Matt gimmick?
Well, you know, it always like depends on where you draw the line between the actual man and the gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Ric Flair almost is living his gimmick.
Yeah.
He is that kind of guy, and we all know the problems that Hogan ran into, where Hogan is and where Terry is, you know, where the line is drawn there. But I think if I was going to pick a gimmick where, you know, that's carried on successfully, like, you know, behind closed, I would say someone like The Undertaker's a prime example.
Yeah.
Dedication to that, to the point where fans would even be kind of reluctant to want to approach him for a signature, because he's just so synonymous with that silence and, that respect that you have to give the guy, that you don't actually do that kind of thing. I think a lot of those kind of things, and even the dedication that WWE had with those things, putting him on not that many signings, you know, you're quite a lucky person to actually meet the guy.
Yeah, and that, you know, again, if you're gonna, if it works, you've got to have the character, you've got to have the performer and the company working together to produce that. And it's like I always say. I mean, you know, it wasn't like $1 Million Man had $1 million, you know, T-shirts to sell, because why would he do that? You wouldn't want to buy his T-shirt. But nowadays, it's cool to buy a heel T-shirt and a face T-shirt. But like back then, the heels would never have the merchandise. It was just never a done thing. But it was only the baby faces. But nowadays, it's cool. It's as much as we can get out as possible. Which is probably why we have such a mixed reaction all the time, because it's almost like WWE educate fans to kind of, okay, well, remember, they're cool. You like a bad guy, you can buy their T-shirt. Whereas if we didn't have that option, I wonder if we'd be as fussed. But, you know, I'm not just saying about T-shirts and stuff like that, but merchandise. But WWE, they almost confuse themselves about who they want their audience to cheer and boo. Like, I know they want the reaction that they put on paper, but the way they distribute everything, and then you mix in all this reality stuff with it, and then when they talk off camera and do things on their social media, it is extremely difficult to really fully believe in anything that is going on as far as characters go. I mean, really difficult. So, I think it would be great if they could ever get that back. But yeah, for me, $1 Million Man, obviously Matt alluded to Ric Flair there. Obviously, Rick and his character are not very different from each other, are they? I mean, it's difficult to say what is a great character, because you could even go to people like, and I know it'll sound quite boring to many people, but you look at Bret Hart, you know, was legitimately what he was, the best there is, the best was, and he truly believed that. He played that gimmick. If you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was red hot, same sort of thing. So I think there have been some guys. I think if you're talking about who can stay in it 24/7 though, then I look for guys like the $1 Million Man and Ric Flair, who legitimately, you know, like I say, $1 Million Man was always given this extra bit of money to go and do that.